We are now live.
Yep.
Which means that's out on the alternative. All right. All right. I think we are all set. Hey, folks, sit back, relax, get your favorite libation, your favorite snack. The Geocaching Podcast is coming at you right about now.
You want to know how to find it. Seek it out when they hide it. You know it's in the bag when it's an easy grab. But come on, take a chance now. So go, geocache, geocache. And if you need help, we're right there in a flash. If you got a question, just call in and ask. I cover the stash on the Geocaching Podcast. The Geocaching Podcast.
Welcome to the Geocaching Podcast, episode 529, recorded live on April 4th, 2018. I'm your host, Headhardhat with
Taz 427 and
Info Ferret.
You can join our chat room and watch our live video stream, plus participate with us as we record this episode. All this and more can be found at www.geocachingpodcast.com/live. Be sure to contact us via our voicemail line at 630-31-VOICE. And also find us on Twitter at geocachingpodcast.com/Twitter and Facebook at geocachingpodcast.com/Facebook. This episode is sponsored by our good patrons of the Geocaching Podcast. To become a contributing patron, simply click on our Patreon logo on our webpage to help keep our podcast going. From all of us at the Geocaching Podcast, we thank you. So, yeah, they weren't talking here in North Carolina. It's been in the 70s. Spring's finally back. The pollen is so thick that you need a brush to get off of your car windows because the water isn't enough. We were supposed to have thunderstorms and all the rest of it today. Nothing. It's just, you got a cold front coming through now. I mean, they were talking like batten down the hatches. We're going to have tornadoes. The end is coming, blah, 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 nothing. I mean, it's nothing like where Scott would be if he were here, but he is officially on hiatus, as it were. The baseball season has started, and he is on his way with that. So, we're here with Chad and with Sarah. But, yeah,
well, you could be grateful for the situation.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know. I'm happy with the weather. It's just that, springtime... I grew up, a lot of time in my adult life. I actually lived in a trailer, nice mobile home, which, everybody knows God hates. So it's one of those things where you learn to watch the weather, and two, you learn to watch the weather closely, especially when they start talking about thunderstorms and such.
And tornadoes.
So it's like, okay, it's that time of year where, things can get pretty hairy. Nothing. It's like, all right, I will be grateful, because is Houston's like now what, where Aquaman lives?
Something like that. It's constantly getting a good deluge of water there, but it drains off pretty quickly. So
by feet. I mean, feet of rain.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's either fire or drowning.
Well, it's usually drowning,
yeah.
but it's relatively prepared though. Yeah, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
All part of the fun. So, Taz, you had an encounter today. I'm going to see if I can get this up on the.
Here, I'll pull up a slightly better one and then pop it up here. Screen share with the application.
Who's going to do the sound effect?
So I met this friendly guy over the weekend. So it's a Western Diamondback. He was I was looking for a cache on Friday, slipped out of work just a tad bit early, and he was sunning himself. It's like, ooh, he hasn't spotted me yet. Let me get my phone. And as I click, he spots me and he starts to rattle, and he starts slithering back down in between the cracks there. And then I heard a second one rattling, and it's like, yeah, it's time to get the heck out of here. And that's just a definite DNF.
Wow.
I think I'll let you off on that one.
Yeah, that one I definitely poke it with the stick is not a good thing either. So
Yeah, especially when I hear a second one, it's like, I don't know how many are in here. And it's like, there's no way in hell at this point in time that I'm sticking my hand down on one of those cracks.
No,
It's like,
that would
it's
be-
not going to happen.
it would not be wise.
Yeah.
Right.
Holy cow.
And you lot were winding me up about going into dangerous places.
Yes, because you went to the place where everything wants to kill you.
No. That's a vicious rumor, or so I was told.
Uh-huh.
The only thing I saw was apparently some soldier ants that nests, but I backed away from those because I had no idea what they were. And those bite you, but I don't think they apparently wouldn't kill you. Saw one spider which was a huntsman and harmless, but everything else was tons of bird life, kangaroos hopping all over the place, a 3-foot lizard that very inconsiderately scuttled off into the bushes before I could get a photograph, and one kookaburra, but I was driving, so I couldn't. So there's no way I could pull over and stop the car at that point. But it was hot there. 37 degrees C at the top, at the high point. So that's sort of hovering somewhere around the 100 mark. I can't convert.
Oh yeah, but it's a dry heat.
98.6.
Thank you. But no.
So Google tells me.
Do you want me to witter on about Aussie at this point?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I went over to the Australian Geo Muster 2018, which was held about 2.5 hours north of Sydney in the Lake Macquarie area, which was a lovely area. Pain in the arse to get to because I hit Easter weekend, and so I had 2.5 hours of solid traffic jam through and out of Sydney, both out and not much better coming back in. So, but once you got there, it was great. So I had 5 days, about 90 caches, plus a couple still to write up. So quick slice and dice of what I found. 1 mega, 3 events, including the one that I was running on behalf of the Wellington Geo Fest in October. Plug. And which I ended up standing on top of a picnic table, talking to people. And when you open the show by reasons to come to New Zealand in October, 1, there is nothing to kill you. We don't have snakes or spiders, so you are perfectly fine to look under rocks and all the rest. And they had some interesting things in the welcome packs. They had a pen. You know how you can get those promo pens with sort of a pull-out bit that tells you about something or other. Well, this one had a pull-out bit of what to do if you're bitten by a snake or spider.
I think that should be prime requisite when you get off the plane there. It's like, here's your snake bite kit, here's your tourniquet.
And they also gave us a selfie stick, so you could stick your phone and look and see if there's anything lurking it before you stick your hand in. That was quite a good one, and so I had an awesome time. Say the 3 events, 1 CETO, which was one of the easiest CETOs I've ever been to because everybody else had picked the place clean by the time I got there.
Show up late, that's the easy way.
Yeah.
And they did a really cool thing of everybody who turned up and did some CETO got given a path tag.
Awesome.
Which they hadn't announced because they only wanted the people who actually wanted to do some work to turn up. But they gave me one anyway. No. CETO, 1 letterbox. I found and claimed a virtual, which is the oldest cache in Australia, in May 2001. So I now have 2 of those.
Nice.
Awesome.
Actually, to my shock, did a Where-We-Go that worked. They always seem to crash on my phone. That's probably the operator rather than the phone. And 1/2 ton of puzzles. The Aussie Geo Muster Power Trail, I was desperately trying to solve all the puzzles for a couple of weeks back. And another series called the Cache-Time series. So the nice little heart around the bottom end of the lake.
Very nice.
And I did manage to get round and pick up all the 10 lab caches. I had 2 DNFs. I'm not sure these count, so it's over to you. One of them was I was trying to do a multi in a cemetery, and it was one where you needed torch and a UV torch, which we did have. But what we couldn't do, we couldn't actually find the start container. So when you've got to go somewhere else, we'd sort of spent about 10 minutes. Nothing jumped out at us, so we gave up and slunk off back to bed. But the other one I was going to do is right near the final farewell event. There was an earth cache, and it was quite an interesting one. But what you had to do was take a water sample, boil it dry, and weigh the amount of salt that was in the water.
Really?
Yeah. And sort of, so was it a fresh, how fresh was the water? How was it? And say why. And I got the research, did that, collected the sample, and lived up to my usual thing of dry feet are overrated.
So was it fresh, salt, brackish, or saltwater?
I would have said brackish, but I then had this drive back down with this bottle of water to where I was staying that night. It was the last night of the trip. Driving down to remember, don't, when you take a sip, don't drink out of the other bottle, not that one. So I got down to my relatives, stopped off at lunch at one point, and found by the side of the road somebody had left a frying pan. So I thought, this is, it's fated. I must be able to do it. Got to relatives. We went for a short walk before tea, came back, and about 10 minutes later, there was a humongous thunderstorm and a lightning strike that took the power out for 2.5 hours. So I never got a chance to actually do the evaporate to dryness bit. So I don't think I can claim that earth cache, unfortunately. Wow. But
I would just taste the water. It's like,
it's brackish.
Well,
is it fresh? Is it salty? Is it kind of salty?
Well, I did think about taking it back to New Zealand, but then realised I don't particularly fancy the risk of a $400 fine for bringing in.
Yes, what's this strange liquid you have?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I haven't tested it yet.
Test it for me and let me know if it's brackish or
So anyway, serious kudos to See My Shell and the others who put on an amazing mega. And their final thing was they had a Geocachers Got Talent contest, which I decided not to participate in for everybody else's benefit. But it had the never to be forgotten combo of something like a tuba or similar large brass instrument and Highland bagpipes.
Oh my.
As a duet playing Waltzing Matilda, which is sort of the Australian unofficial national anthem. It's what they play sing at all the sporting events. To be followed by a huge fireworks display, because one of the geocaches, I think, from Melbourne, his day job is a pyrotechnics guy.
Oh wow!
So they certainly knew how to put on fireworks and keeping it going.
That sounds like.
And I'm now in recovery mode.
So how long were you gone total?
Flew out early morning, Good Friday. Got back very late on the Tuesday, so actually got home about 1 a.m. on Wednesday morning.
Oh.
So I'm
and you
just
went to
about
continent, so it's like, geez.
No, it's still Australasia.
Yeah,
another country. It counts as the 5th country I've been to, so that's a huge number of points on Project GC. So I'm
awesome.
Yeah, quite happy.
I haven't even gone to Canada yet officially for geocaching.
Oh no, it was years since I've been to Canada.
Haven't you been back to Detroit and it's like it's a hop, skip, and a jump over to Windsor, dude?
My luck, I'd get searched, and it's just not gonna be pretty. Regardless, with not that I have anything, but it's like, yeah,
I seem to be every bloody time I go through the Sue airport screening. Hello, you've been randomly selected for special screening.
Yes.
How special do I have to be?
Yeah. No,
yes,
I'm special.
Yes, you can swab or do whatever, but you won't find anything. But I'm bored. I can tell you're bored. Go for it.
Yeah. No, I'm actually, my name is. No, it doesn't matter if you go by Andy, Andrew T. I'm on the terrorist list with all those names with a name like Smith. So I love it because I'll go up to the ticket and I'll give it to the lady and she'll go click, 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 click. And then she'll look up at me and it's like, oh, crap. I know I'm on the list. Just do what you got to do. Makes it
Yeah.
fun. So anywho, that sounds like a great time, sir. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'd recommend it.
Wow.
So with 90 caches, it sounds like you most likely got done with your tour of the solar system too, right? So
Yeah, it
Yeah.
came up there. Did you guys get yours finished, or are you
I
still
did
working
not.
on it?
I've got I got the last two left. I got Pluto plus the finishing everything. So I did find Uranus.
There you go.
So I had to say
Very
that at least
important.
once on this
Yes,
show.
you have to say it, and I'll even ding it for the people that, for reasons unknown, have their problems. Anyhow, so yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. So
Okay.
no, I was good. I didn't wind up the Australians too much about their cricketing scandals and ball tampering. And you can
Yeah,
dig
they
that if
ended
you
up
want.
leaving a brown snake where you don't want it. So I just be careful. Okay, let's move on. We got the if you would please consider becoming a patron of our show. We really do appreciate it. It does cost money to do a podcast, and every little bit helps. So if you can go to our geocachingpodcast.com website and click on either our PayPal or our Patreon logos, and send us a couple bucks each month, we would greatly appreciate it. Every little bit helps. All right, we got, oh man, I'll tell you what, we had quite the response from last week. I had several people write into us when we talked about finding archived geocaches, which was our GCPC mailbag from last week, and we got a lot of comments. So, Chad, you want to take that one, and I'll actually run the
Sure.
official logo. Okay, here we go.
I got mail! Yay! I got mail! Yay!
So, hi, everyone. I was listening to your podcast this morning and heard about the question for the archived caches. Thought I could give a little help with that. On projectgc.com, it's easy to display a map of all the caches of an area, including the archived and or disabled ones. Go to the tool/map compare area, input your name, location, check none found and one found, and add the filter show disabled/archived. Of course, all these will be in the show notes, by the way. So don't be trying to scribble all this down.
Or listen to us multiple times. Either way.
Yes, either way. Other filters are also available to narrow the search down if needed. Then you get a map of all the caches of that area, showing the archived ones with a red cross on the icon. Below the map is also a complete list of the caches displayed. Hope this answers the question. Thanks for the great podcast and keep on podcasting. Vincent, aka I'm going to say Vicino.
Vicino?
I don't know.
Sorry for slaughtering it.
Je ne parle pas français. From Grenoble, France.
Very good. Thanks, Vincent.
Merci bien.
Excellent. All right, I'll do the other one. This one's from Jesse, aka Memphis Mafia, and he wrote, "Hey guys and Jesse, I was just listening to the most recent show. You talked about how to find archived caches. I did find one potential workaround, and it's not perfect, but it does work. And it sounds very familiar, but I'll go over it too. If you use the map compare feature on Project GC, you can select to show archived caches. I suggest limiting the areas as it will pull up all caches. The good part is that it clearly shows archived ones marked with a red X on the map and clickable links to the cache pages. Hope this helps, and good show as usual." And thanks, Memphis, for that one. We do appreciate it. I also want to send out a special thanks to Bronco Cole and all the other people that sent in their suggestions as well. We just had a bunch of them go. So good discussion, guys. I love how the people out there love giving us the extra help when we need it for coming out to solutions.
Yeah. Now, I think we talked about this before, but doesn't Project GC now have a special relationship with geocaching.com?
I think they
So I wonder if they have access to the entire database, and therefore they're able to actually pull all the archived ones while we can't directly through the normal API.
Right. That's a good point.
Don't tell them, they'll shut it down.
That's a good point, because I know that I can't remember if they were bought or strongly partnered with geocaching.com. So either way, they're part of the family now.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, that could be really useful for when you're working on an older puzzle, and you think, it could be a way of blocking out some potential areas of if there were previously live caches when that one was placed, but have now been archived.
Yeah.
Shh, don't give away trade secrets.
It's a secret.
I'd have to
People pay
find the
money
damn
when they
things
tell us
first.
about that. All right, Sarah, I'll tell you what. Why don't you? Can you do the news? You got the notes in front of you?
Yeah, I have actually. That's why I'm scrolling up and down through my phone. So if I'm squinting,
No
it's
problem.
a little screen.
Let me run a little transition here, and you can do the news.
Hi, folks. There's another trackable promo, and then again, it's another US only one, so that's my grump out the way. But it's called Caches If You Can. Halo Top, which I've never heard of, but I'm sure you guys have, is releasing 1,500 trackables into the great outdoors. Brackets. No ice cream will be harmed in the process. Get in on the adventure by searching for our Halo Top robot trackables in a geocache near you. Share your adventures using hashtag Caches If You Can and hashtag Sweepstakes for a chance to win fun prizes.
Yeah, and
there's a link. There's a link to the rules in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll have a link to two places. We'll have a link to if you don't know, Halo Top is an ice cream place. And also, let me see if I can bring this up real quick. And I will. There we go. Okay, so let me bring this up on mine. Here, there we go. Application. Share. Okay, so this is what it looks like. This is the other link that's in there. Is the Halo Top robot trackable is what this is actually called. It's kind of cute. And
it is cute. Yeah, I'm just jealous.
Yeah, so this is kind of neat. If you go to the links that we have on here, it will take you to a registration place where you can fill in your name, and if you're one of the lucky 1,500, you'll get one of these guys sent to you. The one thing that I did know, and I don't know if you guys tried filling yours out yet, they actually have you check, and I've never seen them do this before that I can remember. It literally says, check here if you will say that you will put this trackable out when you receive it, that it'll move, and that's, that kind of thing. There's like 3 things that they actually have in there.
There's been a couple where where you've had to check a box that says that you will release it again. I remember the Tom Clancy one definitely was one of those, and I want to say the Michelin Man did as well.
Yeah, so I'll see if I can. Yeah, so that's all the fun stuff on there.
Yeah. Honestly, I never heard of Halo Top either, but people out here in California have never heard of Bluebell. So, Bluebell's the world's greatest ice cream, to be quite honest. I'm sorry, Halo Top.
Disagree. Carpety ice cream.
But there's some ice creams that are kind of local to specific areas.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Halo Top is a great ice cream, and I've actually identified where I can get some, and I intend to try some.
I admire your dedication to the cause and testing these out.
Yeah. So it's all good. I just was really surprised with I mean, it's getting the word out about it, I guess. But yeah, Bluebell's like down here in North Carolina. That's like one of the main areas I think that actually make it. So,
actually,
its headquarters is in Brenham, Texas.
Is it really?
Wow.
Yes.
I was going to say, Carpety ice cream. You guys don't know what you're missing. I haven't tried Lewis Road Creamery ice cream yet, but their chocolate milk is pretty.
See, now we're gonna get on that, and everybody's gonna want ice cream. Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the other fun stuff here, and like I said, all the links to all this will be in the show notes for you to enjoy. Just go to geocachingpodcast.com and you'll be able to pick out episode 529. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. We I went through today, and it's like every once in a while, just so that, and Scott's not even here to razz him about here, I'll go into the geocaching forums just enough before I have to either gouge my own eyes out or something else of a drastic nature. I'll check out some things and leave while I can, because if you've ever been in the geocaching forums, there are, what's the term? Enthusiastic geocachers that feel that this is their one and only domain in the universe, and they will say whatever they want and don't care, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
They
And that's
have
the
their
nice one.
opinion. Yeah.
They have their opinion, yes.
And express it.
Just like everybody else has one. Just saying.
Yeah. But there's of course, theirs is the only one true right one.
Yes, exactly. So, anyways, I go in there every once in a while just to see some interesting topics, and so I picked out several that people had brought up questions to, and I thought, hey, why not? We can give a more I don't want to say politically correct, because that's not our show, but it's much more of a friendly response than you probably would get if you actually did this on the forum itself. So let's see. From the forums, this is a good one. Good kind of a debate, as it were. Archives or pass the baton. And it says, hello, friends. It's come to me to cut ties with the geocache I have hidden. I was going to archive it, but when I wondered whether it's an option to pass the cache listing along to someone else, should anyone be interested in becoming its new owner, is it possible to transfer the ownership of the cache? And yes, there is a way of doing it. It's called an adoption. Is it worth it doing it, or should I just take it down so that the space frees up for someone else to place a new cache? And this is the universal question. I hate to just archive it because people are still coming to find it all the time. Would love to hear opinions and suggestions on this. Thank you. This is a universal. This has been going on forever. And do you clear it? Do you archive it? Do you pass it on to somebody else to enjoy if it's one of those type caches? What do you guys feel?
I think if it's low maintenance and a high quality hide, and especially if it has a, say, pre 2005 or maybe even 2010 by now date associated with it, then those are ones that we kind of want to keep around.
Yeah. Or if it's something different, like say a DT combo that's not common in your area, or something that, or getting a decent number of favorite points, something that sort of makes it above all the lamppost caches around the place.
A little more it factor. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
And what the other question I had with it is, offer it for adoption. You may get no takers, and don't you have to have found a cache before you can adopt it?
No,
that's not.
No, you don't.
No, I've never been through the process, so I can't.
I was talking to a friend here who recently adopted 30 caches, and he said he had a heck of a time going out there and doing maintenance on them because he had never found them.
Yeah, and see, that brings up the other thing that people go to. If you own the cache, should you be able to find it? Now, my answer to that is, and this is my personal opinion, if you adopted it and you did not physically place it and you go and find it to do maintenance, that's a fine to me. That's no different than going to any other geocache and saying, this is the first time I found it.
Well, true.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's my philosophy. I mean, again, that's my opinion, because I adopted, this was years ago, I ended up adopting a whole series called Welcome to Wake, where there was over 100 caches of all the welcome signs to Wake County. It had a 35 millimeter at it. And I adopted all those, and it was fun for me because I got to go all over the Wake County to actually find them, and I counted them as finds, regardless if I adopted it or not.
I don't know.
I'm just thinking of sock puppet accounts and.
Yeah, I mean,
anyways,
but how many times? It's not like I do that all the time. And
exactly.
And I keep going. This was a one-time thing.
No, I mean, I agree. It's a find. I mean, it wasn't your cache at one point, and going out there and you're finding it, and now you adopt it.
Yeah. Matter of fact, when I put with the owner, I say, original owner, blah blah blah. With the owner, I have my name because it's Headhardhat, but I have original owner and give them credit for it.
Exactly.
I mean, there's one sort of thing of, if you're putting it, if it's up for adoption, it keeps it going. But if you're archiving it, you need to good practice is you go out and physically remove it.
Yes.
Oh,
Don't leave the geotrash. Don't leave
I
the
have
geotrash.
logged archive caches. I have gone out and found. I have been given permission to take the container and use it for my own.
Yeah.
And if I find it, and if I do manage to find the container, to go ahead and log it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I've done the same.
Yep. I don't see anything wrong with that. I
Yeah.
really don't. If
I mean,
if somebody
but
out there
I've-
has a different opinion, let us know.
I've seen a few where it's somebody's, for whatever reason, and cache owner's prerogative, to archive the cache and put a physical note that the container has been removed, so that people
Know
don't
that.
waste any time looking.
That's wise.
That's
That is wise.
that's the good practice.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you want me to read the next one?
Would you please?
Okay. Dear Agony Aunt Andy, why do people hate micros? A trend I'm seeing now that I'm new to this forum, so please correct me if I'm wrong. Of course, they'll correct you whether you're right or wrong, but it's nice to have the option. Is that people hate micros to the point where they're actively filtering them out. For me, I actually prefer micros from bigger caches on the whole. Sure, the whole film canister thing gets boring after a while, but so is seeing sandwich box after sandwich box. And personally, micro caches make for more interesting hides, as they can be more easily disguised as things or be stuffed up small gaps, compared to bigger caches that are often just left in the undergrowth somewhere, which is often where stinging nettles lurk.
Ah.
Okay, first, I'm going to make a complaint for Scott about micros in the woods. So
Get it out.
Get it out of there. I think a lot of people are not necessarily haters in general of micros. It's that micros have oversaturated a lot of areas where other cache types can be put in, and a lot of people just throw out a micro.
Mhm.
And it's harder to put swag in it. It's harder to put trackables in it. And so, it'd be nicer in some ways to reduce the quantity of micros that are out there.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like-
a micro's the right cache in the right place,
great.
Yep.
as is a nano, as is a large.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's also like putting a VW Bug engine in a Maserati. You go out into the woods, you've got all this space, all this area to get as creative as you want, as big as you want, and you put a frickin' micro. It's like, come on.
Talking of supercars, one story from going into Aussie and the long queue traffic jam north to where the maker was. Even as I say, at one point, I overtook a Lamborghini, so even supercars have to wait in traffic jams with the rest of us mortals.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and I'm sure there are people out there, and I'm sure Sonny's not one of them from Podcaster because he loves lamp skirt hides. Just ask him. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that just love micros, and yes, they are a challenge. And yes, if you put a micro in the woods, we will hunt you down and kill you. They are a challenge.
But the thing is that with larger caches, you've got a chance to leave some swag in them.
Yep.
And I've got a couple of friends who their thing is that they like even small caches, something that's big enough to leave a little something for kids to find. Even if it's a plastic toy soldier, or a bead, just something in there that's a little bit different, rather than here's another box with a soggy logbook.
Yeah, let's face it, kids love larger caches. They love the swag. They love the larger caches. They love ammo boxes.
Did you say leave a bee in a cache?
Bead.
Bead.
As in the thing you string on a necklace.
Yes,
well, you could leave a
series.
plastic bee if you wanted.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, I've
okay.
seen both actually. Come to think of it, I've seen bees and I've seen beads.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, the only insects I normally see are ants.
No, this one was plastic, luckily.
Yeah.
There is a whole group of people out there, and I'm actually a honorable member for it, called the Dirtbag Geocaching Society, and they were founded on the society, or on the premise of absolutely positively no micros. You put out as many creative, emphasis on creative, larger caches that you can, and they've done quite, everybody's got their quirks, and yes, we know about some of the quirks that group of people have had with them, but they're, for the whole, they are out for putting out creative, large geocaches, and I'm all for it. Okay, Doug. Let's move on to, let's see, the next one. This is a good one too, and it's kind of broken down into several good questions today. So we'll go into this.
Don't get me started.
Here we go. Can CEO have too many caches? So the cache
Yes.
owner,
Yes.
may have too many, and I think unequivocally the answer is yes. According to the way this goes, it says, Sarah, you just blew away the entire show notes.
Oh fuck! Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, dang.
Edit that out.
Control Z.
Oh well, can you do that?
Control Z. No, I can't.
I'm trying to do Control Z on the phone now.
We don't have that 20-second delay there.
Unfortunately not. Hang on, I'm trying to go back. Well, I can't get... Hang on, let's see if I can find it. I can't get it back, but...
All right. So what basically happened, and I think
Did
this is the
you
first.
lose your Google Doc as well?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not
That's my...
all three of us.
Yeah.
Well, I will see if I can get it back.
Damn
on
you,
something
the bear.
Yeah, it's my fault. Anyway, I accept full responsibility. It's why you never
This
want
is
me testing
what
anything.
happens when you
But-
do it like that. Let me look and see, because there is
Now-
an option for undo. So let me see if
I will talk... While you're doing that, I'll talk through what I can remember of it.
Okay.
Basically, can a cache owner have far too many caches? The answer is, well, other than we all agree, yes, but it's how many is too many? How many can one normal human being be
Right.
prepared to maintain?
It
And there
depends. I think it depends upon the cacher.
And also, the other thing that was up on the screen before I deleted it is that this guy's Cache has put out a huge power trail of uninteresting caches along a route, basically every 300 yards, blocking out everybody else.
Right.
And the person who posted the question was saying, is there any... I'm not in the least interested in finding those. Is there any way to filter them out so they don't keep popping up with as hundreds of new notifications so I can just concentrate on the ones I want to actually find?
Okay.
So how many is too many, and is there any way to filter your notifications?
Yeah.
Is there a way of blocking notifications or filtering out notifications by a specific cache owner?
That I don't know.
Because that would be interesting.
Well,
Okay,
why would you want to do that? Because you get notified and you go find it before it needs to be maintained.
Well,
So-
I think it's a thing of he wanted to he focuses on interesting ones rather than here's 120 popping up along a footpath that I'm not interested in.
Okay. It's hard. It's hard to know. Oh well, you can filter with GSAC by the owner and get rid of the owners, and that's really the only way that I know how to do it.
By the way, your show notes should be back.
You are awesome, thank you, and
See,
I'm sorry.
One of the nice
I
things
promise
about,
not to fiddle with anything
yes,
again.
the nice thing about Google Docs is there's a versioning system to it.
Mhm.
So anything
Version
that
control
gets-
is wondrous.
gets saved, you can go back to other ones. So there you go. And Sarah no longer can play on her phone with Google Docs. I'm just saying.
I'm got my hands behind my back, so I'm not tempted. Somebody else.
For the people that are wondering what we were talking about, she basically highlighted everything and then did a cut.
Is that what happened? Okay, I was on a different page and I came back as like, why isn't
Why
my
is this
Google
gone?
Doc here?
Because I'm trying to sabotage you all, and I'm intrinsically evil.
There you go. So getting
But
back
yeah.
to the can CEO have too many caches? One was, is there an etiquette to this in the geo community? Etiquette is an interesting word for that. There's no hard fast rule that says you have to do. You can do X number, because there's some out there that have thousands of
Yeah,
geocaches.
Yeah.
I know geocachers that have over 1,000 that are able to maintain that
Yes.
over 1,000. I know other caches out there that have 50 and they can't maintain that.
Right.
You know, it's really cacher dependent, and unfortunately, you can't say, "Hey, you no longer get to put caches out."
Yeah. There's
I
no.
think if you report them too much to Groundspeak, they can block it or temporarily suspend it.
Yeah,
But that usually needs a fair few maintenances.
Yeah.
That leads to feuds and other stuff.
And they don't like that.
Yeah.
So.
I mean,
So leave that to the forums.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think it's also sort of a thing of, it depends on what sort of area. If you're the only cache owner in a wide area, the example we've got nearish us is I think it's no longer an active cache hider, a guy called Skindo, who put out so many caches that particular part of the world is known as Skindo land. I mean, he doesn't mind if anybody else puts ones out, because as he put it, there are ones there for him to find now.
Yeah.
He owns over 1,000, and they're not actively maintained, but it's got to the stage where a lot of the community know that if they want to go and keep that power trail going, it's a sufficiently interesting area that they'll replace soggy log books or rusting Eclipse mint tins.
Yeah, because a lot of the geocaching community does that. You see a full gooey logbook, you replace it and go from there. Yeah. Let's see another one. What would other cachers do to place a cache there? This is where the debate gets in. A lot of it, or the confrontation that gets in. You either get a situation where it's like what Sarah's talking about. You want to put a geocache there. There is the geocacher gave up on geocaching a while ago. It's sitting in limbo. Even if you try contacting the geocacher, you still get nothing unless it has fallen under need of major repair to the point that it can be archived. That's about the only way you're going to get past that.
Yeah, I put a few needs maintenances on, and I think I've put about, in the 5 years or so I've been caching, I've put about 3 or 4 needs archives on, but only after it's been. I'm not the only one that's not found it, and
and that's what it usually takes is multiple geocaches saying,
right,
it's in such disrepair, nobody's touched it, they've been gone for 5 years, and then it gets archived.
And
so
I have problems with puzzles though. If the puzzle's been out for a long time, you don't have new puzzle hunters coming. All the puzzle hunters have already found the thing. And so, I go to the location where it's going to be, and it's like, there is no longer a bike rack here. And I know it was hidden on the bike rack because it says so in there.
Right.
And the bike rack was physically removed.
Yeah.
This thing needs archived.
Now, what's sort of annoying is when it's a series and you find a set of trads, and each of those have a code in the logbook that filters through to puzzles.
Yes, that'll drive anybody crazy.
Yeah, and
Yep, got a set of 5 of those in Folsom. That three of the first 4 stages are missing, and so you can't do anything. And I've been trying to get it archived for a while now, and it's not happening.
Yeah.
Well, one of the ones that happened with that particular cache owner I mentioned earlier, there's one of his that's you needed the code to get somewhere else, and he ended up saying cache hide's no longer there, but he at least put the code on the cache page that fed into the next stage. So the series
that's reasonable if the cache owner, you've got an active cache owner. Here, this cache owner hasn't been online for 3 years,
Yeah.
or hasn't been on geocaching.com in 3 years.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, that's a pain.
Yeah. Let's see. Next question that was also involved with this was how many caches can a CO realistically take care of properly? I think Chad hit that one. It says seems many like they're placed and abandoned immediately. That is what I commonly refer to as fire and forget. There are many geocachers, COs that will put out a geocache. Usually it's one that they know they can't do maintenance. Like they hide this thing. And it's like, whew, I am so glad I never have to go back through that to get to it.
Yeah.
Don't put those out if that's the attitude you have on it, because yes, you need to go back out there and do something. But there's a lot of fire and forget out there.
Must admit, there's a couple of mine I wouldn't relish going out and doing maintenance on.
Yeah. Yep, it's and there's no answer to how many really should they do, because like Chad said, some got 10 that they can't maintain, others have hundreds that they can. So it's really up to the individual and what they do and how dedicated they are to it. Yep. Another one, how do I stop the 20 plus? Okay, we did the notifications. Let's see, the last one he had on there, and do we have any other suggestions or insights? The main thing is do it if you realistically can look at yourself in the mirror and say, this is like one geocache that you're going to put. If you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, I will take care of this geocache and it's going to be for a while, then that's a good sign to say, yes, you should be put this geocache out. If you're like, I'm just going to put it out and let the community take care of it,
no,
we'd rather you didn't. It's one of those things where we'd rather have a dedicated geocacher that's going to take care of it instead of finding, 6 months, 3 months, whatever the weather conditions are for it, and just have a place of goo.
And that comes back to the previous discussion topic of the right container, the right cache in the right place. If you put an Eclipse mint tin out in a forest in the middle of nowhere, it will rust away in a year.
Yes.
Whereas if you put an ammo can there, it'll with a properly bagged logbook, it will be there in 10.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or what we quite often do, rather than we as in New Zealand cachers, rather than me personally, is double container. So it would be one smaller sort of pill box or plastic jar which holds a logbook, and then another larger one which that sits inside, and that seems to keep things dry for a heck of a lot longer.
That is the one place where I see that done rampantly. It's a solid plastic container to hold the logbook placed in the larger geocache host, and that is, I think that is awesome.
I like when I do my about 64-ounce plastic container, and then I'll drop a pill bottle with the logbook and that way you can put swag and stuff in there, and the log stays pretty clean. And if that thing gets torn up in a year, someone's gonna say, hey, this needs to be replaced, but the log is still good, and you get out there and replace that bigger container.
Yeah, because a lot of times, especially in the older days, we would use those jewelry plastic bags to hold the logs. They only last for so many openings. Before the bags rip or torn, or the seal is shot, or what have you. If you put it in a sealable something, some small plastic container, it's going to keep the log a whole lot better than those plastic bags.
Yeah,
and I will also put desiccant bags. I collect all my desiccant bags now, and I'll drop one of those in those containers as well if they're not a 100% seal.
Yeah, that's cool.
Now, my pet hate, and going back to nanos, it's those, and I've seen it with small bison tubes as well, is when the log's rolled so damn tight you can't get it back into the container. Well, and you end up sort of mashing the end of it because it just won't roll.
They don't remember or don't realize, and we've said it only a zillion times, that if you roll up the log first and put it in the cap,
Yep.
before you smash it into the body and then close the top.
Yeah.
It will last a
Or-
whole lot better.
If it's
But-
a new one,
Oh yeah.
take, especially when it's the magnetic nanos, where you really,
Yeah.
it's a struggle to roll it up and fit it in the cap anyway. If you're placing it, take the sort of last
4 inches.
inches of or so of it off the
Yeah.
end, then roll it up so it's a little bit looser. That
Yeah.
makes it
I was
so
thinking
much
the
easier.
same thing.
Yeah. And if you've got a log roller, it's basically a piece of wood or a cork with a little 2-prong thing on it. And you just put it to the end of the log and you just twist and it just rolls up real nice. Those work really well as well. Because it makes it a lot easier. Because if you try doing it manually, I think one of the contests at one of the things that we were at for one of the Geo Woodstocks, we actually had a contest for 2 contestants, each with a nano log, and to see who could get it into the nano first. And yeah, it's what it is for any time for somebody that works with those smaller.
I would have had to check the rules. If the rules didn't say that you have to have the entire thing, it's cut.
Yeah. yeah. So that's all part of the fun. So yeah, thank you for that question, and I thought that was a good one to kind of go over. And the last one we've got for tonight is also an interesting kind of debate. One climber, multiple loggers. And this will be interesting. It basically goes like this. This has probably come up before, but is hard to search for. It says, what are the opinions regarding etiquette when it comes to high terrain caches that involve a final climb? Our team of 3 sign logs as a single user. But if we were caching with others and one cacher climbed the cliff, bridge, tree, whatever, and the log or the entire cache was removable, could they hand it down for all to sign? Or should everyone take turns scaling the obstacle?
Only if they really want.
There you go. Any sympathy based on age and or physical limitations? Well, being the fat guy, let me the older fat guy, let me tell you, you're not going to see my geocaching butt up in a pine tree like I was 25 years ago. It's just not going to happen.
Everybody, if it's a team, somebody's got to hold the ladder or be the safety spotter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have no problems with that.
Yeah,
I know other cache owners would.
Yeah, there's many 5-star terrains that we have gone and we've gone literally walks, whatever transportation you took to get to the geocache, and then there's a tower or it's underneath an abandoned bridge or what have you, where it's 50 feet up and you have to rappel to get to it. I'm not going to be doing so good with that. So yeah, I think if it's I've never had a problem where we've had 10, 12, 14 people going through this 5-stage, 5-star geocache, and we went through the bulk of it. We just didn't do the nasty difficult parts for that, and we all got signed it ourselves with it. I don't have a problem with that.
Someone's got to be there to phone the ambulance.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it's one of those
I'm okay with that. Personally, unless I feel that I can do it myself,
right.
I might not sign the log. But I've sent my son up the tree a number of times. Yeah. But I've also climbed those same trees myself with solo. And it's like, if I fall, I die.
Yeah, and then you can't get out of the woods or wherever you're at. So yeah, that's
not. But it's like there's no sense making multiple trips up the tree unless you're in a specific contest.
Right. Yeah,
so when we had tree climbers in the Texas Challenge and stuff, and in the rules it says that if each individual must stamp their own log, and stamps in trees may not be handed down. They must remain in the trees. That's a stipulation of the rules.
Yeah,
those need to be followed. But of this here,
you're out
having fun.
Yeah, and I totally agree. There's been plenty of times. I mean, okay, so I'll give Scott, since he's not here, so I'll use him for an example. How many puzzle caches has Scott Burks actually solved? So yeah, compared to how many thousands he's got, fines for. And I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that's why I take school teachers with me when I go out geocaching, because they can do the algorithms to figure out the math problems. I mean, that's
the Geo Muster trail that we completed at the weekend, there was a puzzle solving group that worked on them. I threw in I'm normally good on the research ones. I'm normally good on the what obscure alphabet is that, and sort of translations and finding those. But other people are far better on the here's a blank piece of blank sheet. Where do you find the source code and which bit do you?
Yeah.
And the image analysis, and kudos to them.
Yeah,
we got the ball between us.
Yeah, how do you de-initialize a photograph so that you can get the right color codes? Chad's laughing because he knows how to do that fun stuff. I do too. That's part of the fun. But it's a talent. It's something that you need to do. I always used to do the joke: what's the fastest way to stop 50 geocachers in their tracks? Give them a math problem. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all part of it. So I honestly don't see a problem, especially, if it's one of those things, and this gets to that point too, if it's one of those things where you're too kind of, what's the term, lazy, that you're going to sit in the car, do you get credit? I mean, if you're making an effort to do everything that you can to get to the point of where the cache is and there's something involved, go for it. I really don't see a problem.
And with at least 3 of the 4 people I've possibly, 3 of the 4 I've gone out, also I've gone caching with over the last year or so. At least 2 of those, I'm the one that ends up going up the tree or up the cliff.
See, that's what, like Chad, that's
what you're being voluntold to go up the tree.
Well, but the other thing with that is I don't break 5'2", so. The things that are higher, I mean, I'll climb things if I have to. Prefer not to, but I will do it. But if it's something that's head height for a 6-footer, I'm gonna struggle. So they earn it that way because they can reach them. Yeah. And I will climb things if I need to.
Yeah.
But that also gives me the right to say, I value my own skin, and I'm not doing that one.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of times I used to take Amanda with me, and she's like, "It's okay," and I'm telling her, "No, you are not going after that because I don't want to spend the next 8 hours in the emergency room."
Oh, it's a good one on the Aussie Geo Muster trail I did at the weekend, where it was, and I'm going to give us enough a way to tell the story, but not enough that it's a spoiler. It was under a bridge. It was under a bridge. You parked sort of under this bridge. The motorway went over the top of you.
Right.
And you had to scramble up a fairly steep slope to get the container that was tucked right against the top of the bridge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a fairly steep concrete slope. I was very glad that A, it was dry.
Yes.
And B, it was dark. So as I climbed up, it was sort of flat, but a steep angle.
Yeah.
So I climbed up there, got it. And the reason I was incredibly glad it was dark, light enough to see, but too dark for anybody to take a photograph of me coming back down on my backside. One of the times I've been so glad I'm well built because it was more surface area in contact with the ground.
Oh, stop. Yeah, that's funny. Awesome. Well, good. Yeah, excellent stuff, folks. We love delving into stuff like this, and this was a good round robin of random geocaching questions. So excellent stuff. I want to say thanks to Chad and to Sarah, and to you fine folks for stopping on by. And we will see you next week on the Geocaching Podcast. Thanks for stopping on by. Thank you for subscribing to the Geocaching Podcast. Please be sure to join us each and every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time for another episode of the Geocaching Podcast, right here at the Geocaching Podcast website at www.geocachingpodcast.com/live. The video version of our show is available on YouTube, and the audio version is available on our home website, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and many of your favorite podcatchers. We love hearing from our viewers and listeners, so please visit us through our social media sites or contact us via our voicemail line at 630-31-VOICE. The Geocaching Podcast is a Headhardhat production and is produced by Andy Smith, Scott Burks, Chad Courtney, and Sarah T.S. This show is copyright 2018 by Andrew T. Smith. All rights reserved. Watch out for those Western Diamondbacks. And clear. All right, good show. Thank you, folks, for stopping on by. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Sarah, for scaring the absolute poop out of all of us.
Sorry about that.
Mike,
I promise not to do it again.
Mike,
Till next week.
Our entire show notes for. I'm just glad I remembered how to get the other versions back. It's like I could do this. Good stuff. All right, so folks, have a good one. Have a safe one, and we will see you next week on the Geocaching Podcast. Bye-bye, folks.